The rain tapped softly against the window, a rhythmic patter that matched the restless storm inside my mind. I sat in my dimly lit room, staring blankly at my unfinished essay, but the words wouldn't come. They hadn't for a while now. Ever since my mom remarried, things had changed in ways I hadn't been prepared for. Our house in North London, once quiet and familiar, now felt crowded and uncertain. I still loved my mom, but blending families was harder than I'd ever imagined. James, my stepbrother, barely spoke to me. He was a year older, quiet, serious, always keeping to himself. I couldn't tell if he was distant by choice or if he simply didn't know how to talk to me. Either way, we avoided each other like opposite ends of a magnet. That evening, I sat cross-legged on my bed, scrolling mindlessly through my phone, music humming in my ears. My little brother fussed in the next room, his muffled whimpers breaking through the thin walls, and I sighed. Our parents had gone out to run errands, leaving the house in an uneasy silence that made me feel even more like I didn't belong. A sudden knock at my door startled me, and before I could answer, it creaked open. James stepped inside, holding a book in his hand, one of mine. "You left this in the kitchen," he said, his voice low and even as he placed it on my desk. "Oh, thanks," I muttered, expecting him to turn and leave. But he didn't. Instead, he lingered by the door, his gaze flickering from me to the clutter on my desk. "You all right?" he asked, his voice quieter this time. "I'm fine," I lied. James didn't look convinced. "You sure?" His expression softened slightly. "You've seemed off lately." I hesitated, fingers tightening around my phone. "It's just," I exhaled. "I don't know. Everything's different now. This house, this family. I feel like I'm stuck in someone else's life." James shifted his weight, stuffing his hands into his hoodie pockets. "Yeah," he said after a beat. "I get that." I looked up surprised. "I know it's weird," he continued, his voice thoughtful. "It's not exactly easy for me either." He hesitated before adding, "I didn't want to mess things up, so I figured staying out of the way was the best option." A dry laugh escaped me. "I thought you just didn't like me." His lips curved into the smallest smile. "Nah, you're all right." For the first time, the air between us didn't feel so heavy. James shifted, glancing at the floor. "You know," he said, "it's okay to feel lost sometimes. Doesn't mean things can't get better." I didn't know why, but those words stuck with me. "Thanks," I said softly. James gave a small nod before turning to leave. Just before he pulled the door shut behind him, he added, "If you ever need to talk, you know where to find me." As the door clicked into place, I felt something shift inside me, a warmth I hadn't known I needed. Maybe this whole family thing wasn't so impossible after all. The next day felt different. James's words lingered in my mind, and for the first time, I didn't feel so tense when I saw him at breakfast. He gave me a small nod and I returned it, something so simple yet it felt like progress. Later that evening I sat in my room again, but this time I was actually trying to focus on my notes. The sound of my little brother's giggles drifted through the hallway, followed by James's voice. Calm, steady, patient. He had a way of keeping our brother settled, something I'd always noticed but never really acknowledged. A few minutes later there were footsteps outside my door. It opened slightly and James peeked in. "Hey, you busy?" "Not really," I said, closing my textbook. He stepped inside, holding a mug of tea. "Thought you might need this." I blinked, then smiled. "Thanks." He lingered again, and this time I gestured for him to sit. He hesitated before lowering himself into the chair by my desk, tapping his fingers on the armrest. "You okay?" "Yes." He let out a quiet sigh. "I don't know. I guess I just feel like I'm trying too hard sometimes." "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Fitting in here. It's like I'm part of the family but not really." I knew that feeling all too well. "Yeah. It's weird for me too." For a moment neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't awkward this time. It was comfortable. I remember when my mom married your dad, James said quietly. I kept telling myself I'd stay out of the way so things wouldn't get messy. He paused. But I guess I ended up making things harder. I shook my head. You didn't. I never really tried either. He gave a small smile. Guess we're both bad at this whole sibling thing. We laughed, and for the first time it felt easy. Natural even. Hey, I said after a moment. If you're tired of hiding out in your room all the time, you can always hang out here. He seemed surprised but nodded. Yeah, I'd like that. Before he left, he turned back. And if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. His words stayed with me long after he was gone. For the first time since our parents got married, I didn't feel like I was figuring this out alone. The night was quiet until it wasn't. A sharp cough echoed from down the hall, followed by another. I sat up instantly, a prickle of unease crawling up my spine. I rushed to my little brother's room, my stomach twisting as I saw him sitting upright in bed. His face pale and flushed. His breathing sounded rough, labored. Are you okay? I asked, pressing a hand to his forehead. He was burning up. Panic surged in my chest as I grabbed my phone to call Mom, but the call wouldn't go through. I tried Dad next, no signal. What's wrong? James's voice came from behind me. I turned to him, my voice shaking. It's him. I think he's really sick. James stepped inside, calm despite the tension thickening the air. He knelt beside the bed and placed a hand against our brother's forehead. He's got a fever, he said quietly. We need to cool him down. I don't know what to do, I admitted, my hands trembling. I'll get some wet towels, James said, already heading downstairs. Moments later, he returned with a damp cloth and a glass of water. Here, he said, placing the cloth on our brother's forehead. Help me sit him up. We propped him up gently, and James coaxed him to take small sips of water. His voice steady and reassuring. You're all right, buddy. I've got you. I sat beside them, feeling useless but grateful. Our brother's breathing steadied, and though his face was still flushed, he seemed calmer. James stayed by his side the whole time, adjusting the cloth every few minutes, murmuring words of comfort. I watched him, really watched him. The way he handled everything, how protective he was. How, despite everything, he'd stepped up. You're good at this, I said softly. James shrugged. I used to help my mom when she was sick. Just kind of figured things out. I realized then, I'd had him all wrong. And for the first time, I didn't see him as my stepbrother. I saw him as family.